Transmission from Eden Prime, sir. You better see this.
Bring it up on screen.
Taking up space! Woo!
Gotcha. Proud of you. Oh, the moon! You guys!
Flynn, bye. You look...
It cuts out after that. No comm traffic at all.
With the relatively new release of Dragon Age Veilguard, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and to some extent Monster Hunter Wilds, we've had some pretty diverse RPGs. Some that people love, and let's say some that people didn't.
Fucking hell!
But catching up and chatting video games in general with my mates, I was looking at retrospectives or relatively new games, or maybe new games to me, for me to check out and review. And generally, I like to check out recommendations from either friends or from comments down below in the sort of comment section on a video. And hell, I wouldn't have looked at Days Gone without a viewer suggesting it. Anyways, my mate Dantics, being the giant Mass Effect fan that he is, suggested that I do a retrospective on Mass Effect, and he's been asking me this for quite some time, and to be honest, I never really liked Mass Effect 1, nor have I ever finished it.
What the fuck did I just hear?
Now, I remember being a kid renting this from my local Video Easy, which was a Australian competitor to Blockbuster, but I remember renting it, maybe getting 3-4 missions into the story, and not being engaged by the gameplay and combat, because as a 15-year-old kid, I was only interested in combat and not story, and at the time I was playing dark, edgy titles like Spider-Man 3, The Darkness, and Guitar Hero 3, which low-key, that video game changed my life.
Nerd alert!
But anyways, getting back to Mass Effect, yeah, I never finished the first game, and I started my experience in the Mass Effect universe, or more so, continued it further, with the second entry in the series, which might be a review for a later time. And after Dantics hounding me to play Mass Effect 1,
I'm afraid I must insist.
I decided, sure, let's boot it up, take my time with it, and go through the first entry in the Mass Effect Trilogy. And this game, it kind of changed how I look at video games as well. Just quickly, before I sort of get into the video, if you do enjoy the content that's made on this channel, if you could consider hitting the subscribe button, that'd be rad, because my goal this year is to hit 10,000 subs, and I wouldn't be able to keep creating this content if it wasn't for people like you. So thank you, and hope you enjoy. Before we get into it, if you're thinking, yes, Mass Effect 1 looks pretty good, well, because it does, and I'm playing the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect, which probably goes without saying, but it is the best way and seamless way to start your journey in Mass Effect and transfer your character into the next entry in the series. But if you know nothing about the world, the lore, the setting, well, they're all kind of the same thing, aren't they? But if you know nothing about Mass Effect in general, obviously it goes without saying that Mass Effect 1 is the place to start, as the game is not only new player friendly, but it also has interactive codexes in the game's menus, which are also narrated, which makes learning fun.
Learning? Let's get out of here!
Hey! The overall story takes place in the year 2183, where we play and create our own character known as Commander Shepard, who's a member of the Alliance Navy, which is a human-led organization. And after testing a new prototype Alliance spaceship in the Normandy, we get a distress signal that a human colony is under attack on the planet of Eden Prime. And we land down to find that this colony is under attack from an alien race known as the Geth. Now, the Geth are this sort of race of network artificial intelligence, sort of like a hive mind, but robots, a bit like Skynet maybe, and they're attacking Eden Prime because an artifact of a long extinct alien race has been found. Anyways, we go to investigate this artifact that's caused sort of the Geth to appear and attack, and we're introduced to this game's main villain in Saren, who is a Turian, one of the coolest alien designs I think I've seen in gaming in general. But Saren is also known as a Spectre, which is basically sort of like a special agent, if you will, for this council of alien races. Now, there is a lot of lore dumping going on here, and there is a lot of lore dumping going on at the start of the game too.
We had reports of Geth in the Pharos system shortly before our colony there dropped out of contact, and there have been sightings around Noveria.
Find out what Saren was after on Pharos and Noveria.
Okay. Can you repeat the part of the stuff where you said all about the things?
Anyways, Saren, this Spectre, has gone rogue, and he kills another fellow Spectre, and he turns on the Council. And the main story is tracking down Saren and bringing him before the Council, or killing him, and to find out why he's gone rogue. Now, that is a oversimplified way of explaining the main story, and I'm being vague too because I don't want to spoil the main events of it. But, well, we find this artifact as Commander Shepard, and it's known as a beacon that is left behind by a extinct alien race known as the Protheans. Now, after Shepard comes into contact with the beacon, Shepard gets a vision of this unknown death and destruction. Saren, however, finds out that Shepard has received a vision from the beacon, and naturally, as the story progresses, we learn more about the beacons, more about Saren, and a larger threat appears that's more so bigger than a Spectre going rogue.
Pretty standard, really.
Following the opening mission, we return to a city hub world known as the Citadel, where we're introduced to more characters, more general world and lore is dumped onto the player, and we meet the Council, which is sort of like an alien group of well, it's a council, but it's a bit like the Republic in the Star Wars universe. But anyways, Shepard spills the tea that the Spectre agent Saren has attacked the planet, murdered a fellow Spectre, and he's working with the Geth. And in order to chase down Saren, the Council make Shepard a Spectre, and he is officially the first human to ever become a Spectre. And we get to command that prototype ship, the Normandy, and we set out to explore the galaxy in the Mass Effect universe to chase down Saren. Now, if you've played games like Dragon Age or the old yet great Knights of the Old Republic, well then, you'll find some familiar aspects here in Mass Effect. It is a BioWare RPG, so you will create a character, you will have companions that you will take them with you on missions, and I'll come back to companions a little bit later because that's a whole thing, but unlike Dragon Age, you're not running into combat with melee weapons or shooting back with spells. Well, you can shoot spells, but the general Mass Effect gameplay is it's a space RPG meets Gears of War with its combat and cover mechanics, and it does have that standard RPG leveling up style systems, skills to unlock, new weapons and gear to equip, and a couple of different ways to play.
Keep going.
Now, just like in Dragon Age and, well, nearly any RPG, but you can make your own Commander Shepard, and you can decide on their backstory, their class, as well as options for their different classes like the Engineer, the Sentinel, the Vanguard, classes that provide you with sort of limited weapon and armor options, but extensive special abilities. However, every time I play Mass Effect, I play one of the standard soldier classes for a couple of reasons. Because here in Mass Effect, every companion has some kind of access to special abilities or special weapons and such, and the soldier can use every weapon and wear heavy armor in the first game. Now, the character creator for Shepard isn't too bad. Even by today's standards, my only gripe is that the options for beards are pretty damn weak.
What is that?
But anyway, you can decide if you want to be the standard and iconic Commander Shepard from the box art, or you can create your own. And this time, I decided to change things up, and I tried to make myself as Commander Shepard, because every time I play Mass Effect, I generally just use the standard box art Shepard. And I will say, it doesn't really look like me, however, it's still not too bad.
What the fuck is that?
Anyways, gameplay wise, at least for the soldier class, this makes your Shepard the best with weapons. You have access to all weapons such as assault rifles, sniper rifles, pistols, shotguns, and a grenade ability, and when it came to a raw firefight, my Shepard felt pretty damn powerful, and I felt powerful playing as him. While my mate Dantics was begging me to use another class and to try something new, I always loved the idea of a straightforward fight with a soldier just mowing down enemies. But looking at combat, weapons here have sort of a overcharged cooldown system. Think a little bit like the blasters in the Star Wars Battlefront series. Some weapons will deal a heap of damage like a sniper rifle, but will overheat after a small handful of shots and you'll need to wait for the weapon to cool down. There's also a variety of different assault rifles and shotguns you can find, changing the damage and cooldown cycles, and you can also buy new weapons from vendors. You can find them in storage crates or safes scattered throughout levels and throughout worlds.
But wait! There's more!
Now, being a game that originally released in 2007 and was remastered in 2021 with the Legendary Edition, the gunplay is a little bit dated, let's say. Now, there is a cover mechanic to slap in and out of cover, but you basically need to be standing right in front of the cover and click into it for it to work. Unlike Gears of War, where say Marcus and the whole squad would slide into the nearest cover when you would push sort of the cover button. The weapons too don't feel powerful in hands, and that might be due to the fact that we're using plasma weapons or heat weapons rather than sort of ballistic style weapons, but sci-fi games in general for video games, I haven't found that they really have a weight or power behind them. But each weapon in this game can be upgraded with attachments, and I will say there is a noticeable difference between using a weapon with and without upgrades. You'll have standard differences like sort of increasing the damage for your weapon, but your weapon will overheat faster, or have say increased accuracy, or increased damage against synthetic enemies, but the trade-off will be decreased damage against organic enemies, or the standard increased damage against shields, but less damage against sort of enemy health. All of the upgrades become available really thick and fast as well, to the point where in some instances at the end of the game, I still had level 1 upgrades, which you unlock basically right at the start of the game, and I was running around with sort of level 7 gear at the end of the game going, why do I still have this low level stuff? But my overall thoughts on combat, it's fine. It's not fantastic, but it's not bad, like it's fine. However, for some missions and some explorations, you do get to drive a off-road vehicle that is a bit of a merge of a tank and an off-road buggy, and it's called the Mako. And on paper, the idea of having a vehicle to explore some planets, or you need to sort of use it for some core missions to roam around the planet, it's not a bad idea, sure. However, Jimmy Fallon hosting a late night show also sounds good on paper, and the execution, well, it's the same as the Mako.
It's true, but he shouldn't say it.
But driving the Mako in Mass Effect gave me the same effect as playing as, say, Mary Jane in the Spider-Man games, or playing a board game mode in Mortal Kombat 1, and that any time I was forced to drive the Mako, I was racing through it as quickly as I could. The driving controls are pretty dogshit. Now, I'll admit, I was playing this on PC using a mouse and keyboard, but to use the standard controls, you've got forward, backwards, left, right, and the mouse is to look around, but you'll still find yourself driving in the wrong direction sometimes. The Mako 2, it also bounces randomly and pretty damn violently when you're driving around, kinda comedically. The vehicle also has a top-mounted cannon, and when you're using the mouse to move around, you move the cannon on the top. And the gun was, yes, powerful, sure, you would mow through enemies pretty damn comfortably, but it also just wasn't enjoyable to use. Where there were missions where I was forced to use the Mako, I'd fire through it as quickly as I could so I could get back to the main story plot points, and I'd kinda be happy when you'd see those roadblocks that sort of, hey, you have to stop using the Mako, you have to now go out on foot. I'd be like, thank God. Outside of the gun combat and the Mako, you'll either be walking around cities and settlements, talking to quest givers, shop owners, main story characters, or you can explore the inside of the Normandy, your ship, while you're traversing from planet to planet. As Mass Effect is an RPG, there's relationships and connections to make. Now, the main man Garrus has a side quest to track down a black market surgeon who is growing organs inside people so then he can sell them later, and any defective organs, well, they're left inside their hosts. So you end up tracking him down with Garrus, and it's actually a pretty damn cool and fun side mission.
Not just for our own sake, but for the sake of every other species in Citadel space. Saren must be stopped.
Speaking of Garrus and the crew, the great thing about the Mass Effect Trilogy is the crew and the companions that you make, and sort of what's available here. And Mass Effect 1, while it does have a small roster of companions compared to Mass Effect 2 and 3, it works really well to introduce players to different species and the lore in the universe. On top of that too, each companion has a set of skills and special abilities, which also works pretty damn well with my Shepard being a soldier class. But the companions here in Mass Effect 1 start off with two humans, with Ashley and Kaidan, before you unlock the Krogan bounty hunter in Rex, the Quarian Tali, Liara and Asari, and a daughter of Saren's second in command, and one of the greatest companions in all of video games, up there with Delta Squad in Gears of War, and Dogmeat in Fallout 4, or BD1 in the Jedi series, or Lenny in Red Dead 2. But it is the Turian Garrus. But each companion here has their own class, and when you leave your ship the Normandy to start a mission or to just roam around the Citadel, you pick your companions. And once I unlocked Rex and Garrus, I never really swapped out from anyone else. They were my main crew, and it worked for me. Both because they're my preferred companions, but also as I was playing as the soldier, Rex and Garrus worked for my playstyle.
Yeah, I'm sorry, who's this gentleman sitting behind you?
Hello, Miss Lady.
And the companion system here in Mass Effect allows you to as well call out to your team to take cover, to equip certain weapons. Now, for example, 80% of my time, I had Garrus use a sniper rifle, and I'd put his skill points and ability points into the proficiency of using sniper rifles, so he could sit back and just pop off enemies. Where Rex, he got all of his attention put into shotguns and some skills where he could regain his health, with some advice from Dantics of course. What's cool too is your companions will talk and interact with each other, and they'll interact with Shepard too. Now, as the game is an RPG, there are options here to make different dialogue choices, where you can act as a hero or paragon, or evil, or renegade as the game calls it, and depending on what options you pick, your companions will comment and agree or disagree with your decisions.
Your mission ends here, Shepard.
We'll see about that, bitch.
Decided that you've had enough with a villain monologuing, where you can just tell them to shut up and draw your guns, and Rex will love that.
Let's not start a fight.
Why not?
Or when roaming around the Citadel, Garrus and Rex will just chat, and it's not just mindless banter, but they'll actually have conversations, which is pretty impressive for a game that released in 2007. What I did find though is that once you unlock or find companions that personally click for you, well then you'll never even look at the other companions. And yeah, the same can be said for any game that allows companions, but after the opening mission, I don't think I used Kaidan or Ashley ever again. And I'll get back to this a little bit later on in spoilers. There's also options here to have romantic connections with companions here in Mass Effect 1. And it is kinda weird that I chose to have a connection with Liara, but I never really had any combat experience with her, so all of my interactions was basically me walking up and sort of hitting on her in the Normandy. That's it, we didn't really do any missions together. So it's kind of weird that you can sort of have romantic connections, but you only talk to them on the ship. It felt a little weird. Now, while Mass Effect 1 is a pretty damn good introduction into the world and setting of Mass Effect in general, seeing as it's the first game in a trilogy, but it is also a good way to introduce players to different races, the Council, aliens, the Geth, how humanity sits in the universe, and what I did find that kind of felt flat though, is the combat. Now, yeah, it's a game from 2007, it is a bit old now, but I found the combat was kinda weightless. The weapons didn't feel like they had any power or kickback to them. And I found getting in and out of cover, it felt awkward. Driving the Mako was also really sort of painful. There's also a sprinting mechanic here in the game, and Shepard gets tired really damn quick. And I get not being able to sprint everywhere, but he sort of sprints 10 meters, then he gets tired. It's kind of weird. Also, being an RPG 2007, there are a fair few missions where you'll need to walk around the Citadel or general outpost, where you'll need to talk to a person of interest in a bar and then go walk down to a administration office, talk to someone there, then go back to the bar and then talk to that same person again, then go back to the office area. There's a fair bit of back and forth walking just for sense of talking and getting a mission done, and it does kind of feel flat. Now, as well, I took a heap of notes as I was playing Mass Effect, and I'm just going to rattle out some of the notes that I took as well. Again, 2007 game, but these are just raw notes. But what I found weird as well, again, I'll repeat myself, the beard options for the game are pretty limited. Talking to my mate Dantics, he's like, well, you're part of the Alliance Navy, you know, you have to look clean shaven, you have to look presentable. But then we've got the pilot Joker, voiced by Seth Green, absolutely fantastic character. He's got a cool beard. Why don't I have a beard? Bit weird. Some of the facial animations and dialogue also felt kind of flat here and there. There's also like a second to like a second and a half between characters talking, and it sort of throws the pacing off a little bit. I also found that my Commander Shepard had a small body, yet a huge head, and it reminded me of Mr. Mackey a little as well. Not really a negative, just something I found funny. Okay. What I found though was maybe about 15-16 hours it takes to get to the end of the main campaign, and that was me mostly beelining the main campaign. Now, yes, I get focusing on the main story while playing a open universe RPG is kinda redundant. Kinda like going to a brothel and having no foreplay and just getting straight to it. But you unlock all the companions in this game really, really quickly, to the point where a lot of the companions just like had no limelight. Like I don't think I spoke to Tali once besides unlocking her. Now, I've played Mass Effect 2 and 3 before when I was a kid, and I've played a little bit of Mass Effect 1, so as soon as I unlocked Rex and Garrus, I kinda just like had my old crew back. But it could have been cool to say you unlock Rex, then you do a handful of missions with Rex and Ashley and Kaidan, before you then get Tali, and then you can sort of swap out Ashley for Tali. Then you do some more missions until you get the next companion. You unlock companions in this game so quick, thick, and fast. However, this problem is completely smoothed out by the time Mass Effect 2 comes around. Now, just a heads up, I'm going to be talking about the events of the story and spoilers, so if you don't want the story spoiled, or if you don't want to hear my thoughts on the spoiler aspects of the story, head to the timestamp on screen. What really did surprise me though with Mass Effect 1, it kept me going past the overall meh combat, was the story and how it's dumped onto the player. Now, when you first start, it is sort of information overload to some extent, but I found just taking my time with conversations, writing things down on an actual notepad, yeah, I'm that old, and going through the codex in the menu was super damn useful, entertaining, and sort of started clicking the puzzle pieces together in my head. But as the story progresses, we learn that Saren is working with the Geth to bring back an alien race known as the Reapers, who are hiding out in dark space. And the lore with the Reapers is that every 10,000 years, they appear, they destroy all advanced organic life, and after everyone is exterminated, they disappear just as fast as Liam Lawson's career in the Red Bull.
I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to win, and that's what I'm focused on doing.
And the Reapers had exterminated the Protheans, who are the super advanced race of aliens that laid the foundations down for space travel. Anyways, we learn that Saren is summoning the Reapers back into the universe, and even Saren's ship is a Reaper too, which is a really damn cool plot twist. But what I really enjoyed, to the point where I was honestly really surprised, was how Shepard can grow as a character. If you put enough points into his charm and intimidation and play as a hero, when you get to that final confrontation with Saren, you can try and get him to side with you and fight off the Reapers. And seeing as Saren has this bit of a fallen angel kind of story, like he was a Spectre and now he's sort of gone rogue, to the point where I got Saren in my story to shoot himself. And it was a story plot that honestly I wasn't expecting, and I was kind of pleased that like you had that level of sort of option in the sort of story and how it would affect the flow of the story. But we have a few choices here in the campaign too, and while some of them are a bit game-changing here in Mass Effect 1, they do have ripples into the sequels. Firstly, we have a main story mission, which is sort of like the second last mission for the game, where your companion Rex is seriously considering Saren, as Saren has found a way to save Rex's species, the Krogans, from extinction. So there's a moment where you need to try and calm Rex down and get him to see reason, and if he doesn't, and he turns hostile, Ashley will fucking shoot him. And thankfully, I actually managed to calm Rex down, and Rex survived in my game. But then there's an option for our human companions to die, with Kaidan the soldier, a companion who's been with Shepard since the opening cutscene, or the space racist. But you find that both companions are caught in a life and death situation, and you've only got time to save one or the other.
He's got a heartbreaking decision to make about whether his best friend lives or dies.
And this kind of goes back to my point with companions in the game, and that I felt that you're not spending enough time with each companion before you unlock the other one, because you unlock them so quickly and so fast, you then pick your favorites, and then when you're having to decide on which one should live and which one should die, you don't overly care if they're not your personal favorite, or if you're not using them constantly for missions. And as Ashley hasn't really stuck with me as a character, and she wasn't approving of aliens on board the human alliance ship the Normandy, which is my ship, nobody talks shit about Garrus, so it wasn't a hard decision to fuck her off.
Advanced ship in the Alliance Navy. I don't think we should give them free rein to poke around the vital systems.
A few moments later.
Everybody hang on!
Oh, dear God, no!
But while I had issues with Mass Effect, I really enjoyed the story and the world building. Graphically, it looks pretty good, obviously 2021 remaster. The voice acting though, across the board is top notch, where dialogue between characters seems natural. And there are some pauses between characters talking. They're all fluid though with how they talk, and the voice dialogue, it doesn't seem flat, like each character's voice works perfectly for their character. The world and lore that Mass Effect introduces to you is super interesting, or well, at least I thought it was. Now, while there is a lot of lore dumping at the start of the game, you'll start to understand and pick things up if you just take a little bit of time with it, and the codex is underrated too, so that's a plus. The combat and some of its mechanics are a bit dated, but I'd say the first Mass Effect game is like the first Star Wars movie. Yes, it's a bit dated, but it works as a great entry to introduce you to the world of Star Wars, and the next entry in the series is what many people consider to be their favourite. But I'm kind of glad that Dantics repeatedly suggested that I go back to Mass Effect 1. Now, while it starts off a bit slow, and it can be a bit of a slog to get through here and there, especially at the start, as soon as the credits rolled for Mass Effect 1, I autopiloted and went straight into Mass Effect 2, and I kind of had to stop myself to actually make this video. But as I mentioned at the start of the video, this game kind of changed how I look at games, more so with what possibilities and areas that developers could explore if they get a chance to, say, make a sequel. Like, what would happen if we got a sequel to Redfall? Sure, it wasn't a game that many people liked, but there were elements of it that I actually really enjoyed, in taking on vampires in a first-person shooter. Or how the developers of Republic Commando could have built up and made a sequel after Order 66 with the foundations of the gameplay that they set in, Republic Commando. Now, if you're curious about the Mass Effect series or you've never played them before, while you can skip 1 and go straight to 2, it would be like watching The Empire Strikes Back without watching A New Hope. Its campaign runtime doesn't overly overstate its welcome as well, and how your Shepard interacts with its crew, companions, and even villains is pretty damn creative for a game that released in the early 2000s. But whether you think Garrus is the best companion in the Mass Effect trilogy, or you're wrong, always remember to play with each other and play with yourself.